Oh baby, big announcements dropping. Justin Trudeau, as his parting gift to Canada, is announcing the largest infrastructure project we've seen in, I would say, decades. And I would say almost close to a century at this point. It is kind of wild to see it happen. And it's weird that we all have to ask what the timing is of all this. What is the point? What is happening? So here's the announcement. Let's take a look.
Of Alto, the largest infrastructure project in Canadian history. A high-speed rail network between Quebec City and Toronto with stops in Trois-Rivières, Laval, Montreal, Ottawa, and Peterborough. It'll span 1,000 kilometers with 100% electric trains that will reach speeds of 300 kilometers an hour. A reliable, efficient, high-speed rail network will be a game changer for Canadians, slashing travel times by half, getting you from Toronto to Montreal in 3 hours. It'll stimulate our economy, strengthen the bonds between cities and our two most populous provinces, and reduce costs for businesses while improving their productivity and competitiveness.
So this is a huge announcement. And one has to wonder why. Why now? Why here in 2025 as we're about to hit a literal leadership race, potentially a couple months away from an election, especially when this project was talked about back in 2017, when Elon Musk brought up the Hyperloop that could potentially connect Toronto and Montreal within 39 minutes. People were really excited about this. They wanted it. They desired it. But here we are, some 8 years later, now having the same conversation about a different project, similar, but now we're going to do it for more money. That's going to take more time to get across. And I understand it's not Elon Musk and it's not the Hyperloop, but it is a question people are having, like, why are we doing this now? And to discuss this with us, Reg is in studio.
Yeah, so I think tonight, or I guess today, sorry, it's going to be a little bit off the dome here, but one of the first things that I looked at this and I said, excellent. I was like, we need this kind of infrastructure. We need this kind of change in Canada. The fact that we don't have high-speed rail in this country, it's kind of an embarrassment. All the countries in the world that are kind of the gold standard for livability and for progress, they all have high-speed rail. Yeah. Japan, China, all of Europe. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we look like idiots that we don't have this in North America. So when I see this, I'm like, that's a positive move. But it's exactly the question you brought up. Why now? Also, the other part that we have to think about is we're ramming this in while government is prorogued. So there's no discussion on it. Nobody can talk about it. And he's making this announcement. And he's a prime minister that is basically on the way out. So how is he able to even sign these agreements knowing that this is going to be $3 billion?
Yep.
Or sorry, $4 billion, $3.9 billion, $4 billion, because we know that's going to balloon up probably closer to 5, 6, maybe 7, because we saw with the pipeline in Alberta how that just ballooned and ballooned and ballooned over time. And where's this money coming from?
Yeah.
This is a government that wants every program out there going, and they don't seem to have the money for it because they keep running deficits. I mean, we saw the past 10 years, not a single year were they on budget. Not a single one out of 10 years, a decade of deficits.
Yeah. And it's the question that is really good to bring up. And this is the thing, Reg. You brought up the $4 billion mark. That is only for this phase. Experts are predicting this is going to be $80 billion project, which is like, whoa. Again, we're excited. We want to see it. But that's a lot of money. And again, why now? You said it yourself. He doesn't have the say-so right now. Parliament is prorogued. Where is money coming from? We see it in this article where we know that $371.8 million was announced from the budget, but then in addition to the $3.9 billion, which hasn't been signed off on yet. So how is this all going to work? Well, this is the thing here, folks. We will be seeing an election, likely here. It will be announced March 10th. This is the bargaining chip in the final wall of division that Trudeau is offering and giving Canadians on his way out. We know the battle is going to come down to Southern Ontario now that we've seen Carney go up in the polls. And it's going to come down to Quebec and Ontario as per usual. And this is going to be used as the major bargaining chip in that election to make sure that the Liberals hopefully get more of a foothold in those key areas within our country. And if we see another potential Liberal, even a Liberal minority, you will see Alberta on its way out. And I think that will be the death knell to our country.
So what's interesting about this is that this is a gift to Ontario and Quebec from the Liberal government saying, vote for us, we'll make this happen for you. We'll make your lives better. We'll make Western Canada pay for it. And even if all of the other provinces outside of Quebec and Ontario were to vote Conservative and just Quebec and Ontario voted Liberal to get this kind of thing, they represent 200 seats out of the possible 338.
Yeah.
Like the rest of Canada can say absolutely not. All the other provinces, no. And it doesn't matter because Quebec and Ontario command that much of authority. And it's ridiculous.
Yeah, and I think we also have to kind of keep in mind what the seats are, the federal ridings that will be impacted by this, because we know like Northern Quebec, not really going to care. They're going to go Bloc Québécois. And we're just going to see a variety of different ridings within Quebec go to the Bloc. But even if that 200 seats is more like 160, that's still, that's a lot of sway. That, again, comes down to the question that people were upset about when Trudeau first started, is election reform, because there is a small point of our country that controls has way too much say in how things operate, and the Liberals know that, and they're going to capitalize on it with this project, and that is what is concerning.
Yeah, and it's so true because like you said, even if we brought it down to like you said, 40 seats out of like Northern Ontario, Northern Quebec said, nope, we're not supporting this, and you got a smattering of seats in the other provinces. Like we know that Atlantic Canada, for whatever reason, has its Liberal addiction. So if you had like some in Newfoundland, some in Nova Scotia, some in New Brunswick, some in PEI, it would be enough that they could get another friggin' majority or minority and be the governing party of Canada again, just because of things like this. So this is 100% strategic. This is, I want to see high-speed rail in Canada, so I don't want people to get that confused.
Yeah.
This is a positive step for our country. The problem is that right now, we don't have the infrastructure and natural resource development to support the price tag. So doing this right now is reckless. It's like saying, you know, I just got a new job, I'm going to go buy a Ferrari. It's like, you should probably wait till some of that paycheck comes in before you go out and do that and save up for it. And I know that in times of economic crisis, modern wisdom is that the government should spend on infrastructure that's fixed like this so that we can actually boost productivity, we can boost our economy and pull ourselves out of recession. We don't have the money. They blew 10 years worth of budgets. We don't have the money for this. I want it. I don't want it like this. And exactly like you said at the very beginning, it's the timing of it all that stinks. And it's the fact that they're not looking at a Trans-Canada plan for high-speed rail. This is a gift to only Ontario and Quebec because they know that's where the votes are.
Yep. And let's just talk about what the numbers are again. For a majority, you need 170. And again, this is not, we're trying our best not to do the whole fear-mongering thing. That's they're going to take over. That's not what we're saying. But we're saying, yeah, okay, let's even talk more logistically. Like, say they only secure 120 seats through this plan. That's still, I don't think you realize how many seats go through Southern Ontario, that golden horseshoe, through into Southern Quebec. Like, it is a lot, and this will impact those and could potentially flip those red because of this particular project. And that's the idea.
Yeah. And one of the other things that we need to kind of consider is that this is kind of where we need the Senate. And like, I hate the Senate, but this is where I kind of think that the Senate needs to be a little more impartial. It needs to have some major reforms. And we need to be looking at that as actually keeping that House of Commons in check. Because right now the House of Commons, it's skewed towards those two provinces and those sections of those two provinces, and the rest of Canada has to kind of abide by what those interests are. And so I think that the way that we've designed our Senate right now doesn't meet that need, and we need to really kind of consider that. And so in another episode coming, we'll be actually talking about some of the Senate reforms that I think would be helpful, and actually looking at some of the numbers that come out of the public accounts data. So we're not done with that public accounts.
Yeah. More is still coming, and we look forward to kind of covering it all just for you. Have yourselves a good one. We're out.